During science class that morning, we talked about caves, and Woodrow made a favorable impression on Miss Hart. How he did it was first class clever. He merely pointed out in his bashful voice, so as not to appear as a know-it-all, that the way you could remember the difference between the upper and lower calcium deposits in a cave was that a stalagmite was formed by the ground, while a stalactite was formed from the ceiling. You guys know what stalactites and stalagmites are, or no? You guys ever hear that before? So I'll show you guys a picture. But his idea of how to remember the difference, because they kind of like sound the same and look the same. Stalagmite has a G in it, stalactite has a C in it. So he associates G with stalagmite, and the C with the as in ground, and then the C as in ceiling. So let me show you what they are. We have stalagmites and stalactites. Have you ever been in a cave? Right, so the stalagmites would be on the ground, the stalactites would be on the top. Okay, so this is the difference. If you ever seen a cave, the calcium deposits, right? So this is the stalagmites, these are the stalactites. Okay, because ceiling, ground. Miss Hart was so pleased with his little lesson, I thought for a minute she was going to hug him, which would have been embarrassing, but she didn't. She grinned instead. Woodrow was encouraged and asked if he could tell a story about a cave. "Oh, yes, please do," Miss Hart said. Whereupon she sat down, and once again Woodrow was at the front of the class. Woodrow's story was about Floyd Collins, a man who liked to explore the Great Mammoth Cave of Kentucky. What happened to him when he went spelunking alone one day was a sorrowful thing. So spelunking means to like cave explore. That's what spelunking means. He got stuck in a crevice where he died because rescue workers could not reach him. I nearly wanted to cry when Woodrow was finished, for it was a true story. So we went to our arithmetic lesson in a mood of seriousness. Our minds tended to hark back to the cave in Kentucky, where poor Floyd suffered so awfully for weeks preceding his death. But once again it was Woodrow who saved the day. A puzzle, the word was whispered around the room. Woodrow has an arithmetic puzzle. Miss Hart was smiling again. There were three men, you see, Woodrow began. They went to a hotel in New York City where I hear tell everything costs more than everywhere else. Anyway, they were charged $30 just to sleep one night in a hotel room, if you can believe it. They grumbled, but each man paid his $10, which makes $30, right? Then they went up the stairs to their room, which, by the way, had 3 beds in it, so nobody had to double up. It wasn't no sleazy place. After they went up, the hotel manager suffered an acute attack of conscience, and he thought, well, maybe he might have overcharged the men. So he took 5 $1 bills out of his money box, there under the counter, and he told the boy he had to run errands for him to take the bills up and refund the gentlemen some of their money. So the boy goes, and on the way he puzzles over how he can divide the 5s, 1s among these 3 men, and he sees no way to do it. So what does he do? He stuck 2 of them 1s in his own pocket. Then he gave each of those 3 men $1 apiece. So what did this boy just do? What did that boy just do?
He tried being sneaky.
Well, he did. He wasn't trying. He did. What did he do?
He hid the $2 in his pocket and gave $1 to the rest of the men.
Yep. So he's basically stealing that money. Essentially, is what he did. Now, if you're following me, that means each man was paid $9 for his room. That's $27. The boy had $2 in his pocket, right? That's $29. So what happened to the other dollar? Right, so this is kind of like a riddle. Woodrow sat down. We scratched our heads. We started scribbling and figuring. Miss Hart was calculating mentally on the ceiling. Woodrow then admitted he didn't have an answer. There was no satisfactory answer. Next thing we knew, it was lunchtime, and it seemed like we had just got to school. Rain poured down, and we couldn't go outside to play. So we sat around in the classroom, whispering and playing games. Hangman and tic-tac-toe. Then somebody said, "Woodrow, do you know any more puzzles?" Naturally, he did, sort of. He went to the blackboard and he printed in large letters. Right, so this is a riddle of sorts. Once again, we were stumped, until Woodrow gave us the first line, which was, "See them puppies." Miss Hart couldn't keep the lid on the rest for the rest of the afternoon. She said it was like trying to hold 30 corks underwater at the same time. As for me, I never had a better school day. I told Woodrow that very thing as we walked home at 3:30. Can't you hear your calling, Woodrow? I teased him. You're a natural-born teacher. You make learning fun. Oh no, Woodrow said. I'm going to make picture shows when I grow up. Picture shows another name for what? What's a picture show?
Photos.
Not photos,
A slideshow.
not slideshows.
Movies.
Yeah, movies. Picture shows. We used to call movies picture shows. My first one will be about plants that eat people. Besides, those were all Mama's stories, even the men in the hotel one and the puppy ones. Now, the Floyd Collins story is true, and she used to talk about it when she was blue. She said she knew exactly how Floyd Collins felt trapped like he was in the Mammoth Cave, just like Ed Morel felt in the straitjacket, and just like Belle Prater felt on the Crooked Ridge. Again, he keeps bringing up this idea of being trapped that his mom was speaking about. So you got the one guy trapped in a cave who dies, the other guy who's in a straitjacket, and then her mom and the mom herself. Once again, we had come full circle back to his mama, and I knew it was a thing that gnawed at him and wormed its way into everything he said and did. Granny's phone started ringing off its cradle that evening, always for Woodrow, and it didn't slow down for as long as he lived there, which proved to me that my cousin was the most popular feller since the country singer Little Jimmy Dickens. Right, so obviously now uh, he's starting to become real popular, Woodrow. 9. Friday evening, right after supper, Woodrow and I, along with Granny and Grandpa, were watching I Led Three Lives on television. Grandpa had to keep jumping up to adjust the horizontal hold because the picture was flipping and rolling, and there was some snow on the screen. So TVs back in the day used to have two knobs that you had to turn. One of them was called horizontal hold, and the other one was called vertical hold. And basically, your images would go like from left to right or up and down, and they would just like flip, almost like I guess I can kind of show you on this paper. So like a horizontal hold would literally make the images on your screen go up and down like this, but like real crazy and like jumpy. The same thing would go the other way. I can't do left and right, but basically that same thing would happen to your television screen. Um, if you had to like literally mess around with each channel that you switched to, because it would flip. I have no idea why that was the case, but you had to like literally turn the knob until it stopped spinning like crazy. Then there was also something called they're calling it snow, but it basically kind of looked like black and white dots that would just be on the background of your screen because it looked like it was like fuzzy. Actually, I might be able to find a picture of what snow looks like on the screen. Yeah, so look at this. So basically, you're watching the TV and the image would be through this, but it would be like super fuzzy, so you wouldn't be able to see anything. So like, let me see snow show on screen. See if there's like anything that actually kind of shows it. Yeah. This happened such a long time ago. I don't even know if you'd be able to like see what it actually looked like. Like, just because it was such a long time ago. Yeah, they don't. You can't even find an image of what it looked like because nobody's running that anymore. But it basically would appear. It would be like this image superimposed on this. It would be like super fuzzy. You can kind of see like a little bit of fuzzy on this. See how kind of this is a little bit fuzzy, but it would be even worse. And the image wasn't sharp too. The image is really like bad quality. So think about like your worst photograph. That's kind of how the televisions looked. It was, and in the 1950s, the shows were all black and white too, for the most part. They didn't have color television yet, really. All right. Other than that, you could make out the people's faces for a change. So again, you can't even tell who's who on the screen. It was like that blurry, and I could tell what Richard Carlson really looked like. I commented that he was right nice looking. Huh? Woodrow snorted. I bet if a feller had his money, even the ugliest person could be good looking. How can money make you good looking? I said. You never heard tell of operations people get on their faces? He said, it costs lots of money. So what's the reason why Woodrow thinks actors are good looking? What is the reason why he thinks that actors are good looking?
Because they have money.
Exactly, because they have money, and they're paying money to get their faces operated on, right? So basically, plastic surgery. So this is Woodrow's idea of what is actually occurring here. So make sure you are highlighting that. What's up, Stacy? Is that Stacy? Looks like Stacy. You can see you in here. All right. So again, make sure you're highlighting it. So Woodrow believes that actors are beautiful because of plastic surgery. Make sure you are highlighting that, guys, and commenting.
I would say, Mr. Rivera, today, wouldn't you think that there are some actors or actresses that aren't attractive?
Uh, yeah, obviously times have definitely changed a little bit, right? So there's always going to be a character. They like having character actors, right? So there's certain actors that they purposely hire because they have a look that just doesn't fit in, right? So true, but overall, right, nowadays beauty sells, right? Beauty definitely still sells, it's still going on. Your average movie star has a certain look to them that's I would call attractiveness. So things are still kind of similar. Right. So even if you think about like teen TV shows, right? Your average TV show, there's definitely lots of beauty involved, right? Who is the most uh, popular in TV stars, right? It's like these beautiful stars like the Kardashians who are billionaires because of their looks. All right. Did you ever see an ugly movie star? No, you didn't. They have money. And if I bet the truth was known, a bunch of them were born uglier than a mud fence. What's this an example of?
Yeah, metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor. Make sure you guys write that. And if I bet I knew the truth, I would bet a bunch of them were born uglier than a mud fence. Metaphor. We were stretched out on our bellies on Granny's braided rug, a box of Cracker Jacks between us. And again, Cracker Jacks, you guys probably know what they are, but I'll show you what they are. Okay, so I'm not sure if they still sell them. I think they probably still do. So you get this like little cardboard box.
They would put something inside of them.
Yeah, exactly. They still have like little prizes inside. I'm not sure if they're still in business.
Mister, now all they put inside of them is stickers.
Oh, really? That's sad. Yeah, so they always have like a cool little prize at the bottom of it, and it's basically popcorn that they put caramel on top of. So they're pretty good actually. And then kids would always buy it because they had a little prize. Cracker Jack might have been one of the first foods that were smart enough to put little prizes for kids, so kids would want to buy it and eat it. And obviously, kids like sugar. All right, let's go back. We were stretched out on our bellies in the Granny's braided rug, a box of Cracker Jacks between us. Woodrow found the prize, a rubber ring, and I let him keep it, even though it was pink, and it should have been for a girl. That show ended, and Dinah Store came on singing, "See the USA in your Chevrolet. America's the greatest land of all." Chevrolet being a company for cars, okay? And throwing us a kiss. Dog could be heard barking outside, and at the same time there was a knock on the front door. Woodrow and I scrambled to our feet. He beat me to the door. It was Uncle Everett. And remember, Uncle Everett is whose father? Who was Uncle Everett's the father of?
Woodrow's dad.
Yeah, it's Woodrow's father. All right, so remember, Uncle Everett wasn't taking care of him for a while because he was not dealing with the situation of the wife leaving. Right, so he's very depressed, and because he's so depressed, he's living with the grandparents. "Howdy, son," he said quietly. He was tall and shaggy looking. He was wearing overalls, and in his hands was an old beat-up hat, which he twisted around like he was nervous. "Howdy, Daddy. Come on in," Woodrow said, and I could tell he was tickled. But they didn't hug or even shake hands. What do you think they mean that he was tickled? This is your normal meaning of what you think is tickled. What do you think he means by that Woodrow's tickled here? What does that phrase mean, you think? How would you feel if you get to see your father for first time in a long time?
I would feel like nervous.
Not nervous.
Uncomfortable.
How would you feel if you haven't seen your father in a long time and he comes and you finally get to see him?
Uncomfortable.
You think you'd be
Because you
uncomfortable?
don't know how he is.
If your father went away for a month or two and then you finally get to see him, you would feel uncomfortable?
I would feel uncomfortable, but at the same time excited to see him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically excitement and happiness. So tickled here means happy and excited. Okay, but again, he's acting a little nervously, so he's not shaking hands or hugging. So he's happy to see him, but again, the relationship was a little off, so they don't hug. Again, make sure you have that there, guys. Woodrow held the door open for his daddy, and Uncle Everett stepped inside. He nodded to the rest of us. "Howdy do," he said. Granny and Grandpa stood up and greeted Uncle Everett and offered him a seat, which he took. At least he took the edge of it, where he perched, and didn't appear any too comfortable. And again, there's clues to the fact that he's uncomfortable because he's sitting on the edge of the seat, right? If you're super comfortable, you'd be sitting on the seat completely. But he's a little bit uncomfortable. So because he's a little bit uncomfortable, he's just sitting on the edge. I could barely remember him being in this room once, maybe twice before, and it occurred to me for the first time that it could be Uncle Everett. Felt self-conscious with us, just like Woodrow had felt that day in his oversized pants with the rope holding them up, and me in my frilly dress. So here, it's kind of important to recognize that Everett is like really poor, and his poverty um, makes him feel uncomfortable in this house, right? Because their family has lots of money. They all have like nice clothes. Everything's nice in their house. Meanwhile, he lives in a shack, so he doesn't feel completely comfortable in their house. So you kind of want to write that. So again, he is not feeling comfortable in his house because of this house, not his house, because of uh, uh, poor, I guess you could say. And so he just doesn't feel right there. I actually had the opposite thing happen to me. Like my father was pretty poor growing up as a kid, and I used to live with my mother in Edison. So I would actually get embarrassed when I had my friends from Edison go to my father's house because my father's house looked so rickety and poor, and I would be like, "Oh, I don't want you going inside there," because it was like a big mess because they were so poor.
Mr. Rivera,
What's up?
so I looked up a shack. Bro, those look so, I don't know, they just...
Yeah, it's rickety. So shack is basically you wouldn't live in a shack. A shack is basically just like barely wood walls hanging up. Yeah, it's just you. Most
It's
people.
embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. If you think of a shack, it's just like this tiny, like little wooden, like rickety building. You don't refer to houses as shacks. Just wanted to check in on you, boy. Uncle Everett said. See, you're doing okay. Doing fine, Woodrow said, and I parked on the floor beside his daddy's chair. I eased down there beside Woodrow. You started school here, I reckon? Uncle Everett said to him. Yeah, and they put me in Miss Hart's room, Woodrow said, with Gypsy. Uncle Everett glanced at me and nodded. How you doing, Gypsy? I'm fine. How are things with you, Uncle Everett? I'm getting by. Yeah, I reckon I am. He said it like he wasn't too sure. There was a moment of uncomfortable silence. How's Daisy and Milkweed? Woodrow said. They're fine, too. No, I take that back. Daisy's fine. Milkweed busted her right front hoof on a mattock, but she's mending. So what are Daisy and Milkweed? What are Daisy and Milkweed?
Horses?
Yeah, they're obviously like horses. They could be either a horse or maybe like a donkey or something. It's going to be obviously some sort of animal that has hooves. Uh, oh, Woodrow said. Was she bad hurt? Nah, not bad. Another silence. And I guess, Woodrow began, then thought better of it. Oh, nothing. I don't know a bit more about her now than I knew when you left, Woodrow, Uncle Everett assured him. But I'll be bound to come and give you any news I learn straight away. I'll trust you'll do the same. So, again, they obviously, right here in this part of the story, it's obvious that Woodrow wanted to ask about the mother, but didn't. And then this part here, Everett realizes that he's trying to ask questions about his mom, and he basically says like, "I haven't heard anything." But if I do hear something, I'll tell you. You need anything? Uncle Everett asked. No, I got more than I need, Woodrow said. Well, that's a blessing, son, because I'm broke as the 10 Commandments. Here she has an example of a what? What's that an example of? Broke her? I'm as broke as the 10 Commandments.
Symbolism? No, symbolism?
Simile. That's a simile. Make sure you have that. Then they went out with more small talk like that before Uncle Everett stood up and eased out the door. Woodrow went to the window and he watched his daddy go out on the walkway to the road. What's this an example of? Let's see if you notice that. What is that an example of? It's kind of sneaky, but it's there.
Alliteration?
Yeah, that's alliteration. All right. Well, again, the old Ford is a Ford truck. I walked over and I stood at Woodrow's elbow. It was still light enough.
I didn't get to see it though.
Yeah, it's just that's an example of alliteration because of the W's. I walked over and stood out at Woodrow's elbow. It was still light enough out there, and I could see somebody in Uncle Everett's car. It was a blonde-headed woman. Woodrow clutched the windowsill with one hand, and I could see his knuckles turning white. Why are his knuckles turning white? What is he doing? What would make his knuckles turn white there?
When he's like throwing a fist or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's making a hard fist. I didn't say a word about who that might be in Uncle Everett's car, and Woodrow didn't say anything the rest of the evening. So, why do you think he's making a fist? Why is he making a fist there? Why would Woodrow be making a fist?
Because he saw a lady in the back of his dad's car.
Yeah, so what can you assume about that woman?
That she was...
Who is that woman? That's
That could be her new girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly right. So Woodrow is mad because he sees his father with another woman, not his mom. All right, so again, you're going to go on to Sakura Div. I'll share this video just in case some